career in youth work. Spent the last 20 years working in homelessness, addiction, youth mental health, education, all with the purpose to help young people become more resilient, believe in themselves, know who they are, know who their supports are, and know where they're going, to live for a purpose beyond themselves, if you will. I have a 2009 email folder in my personal email account called Impact Society. Back when I started using the programs and got trained and was using the program materials to augment for an ESL camp in Southwest China. And back then I'd said to my wife, I said, if I could do this, just this, that's all I'd ever want to do. And so when I got that invite to work with this group of counselors in Sichuan province, they were looking for a program that could boost resilience, because they knew after the earthquakes in 2009 that all these traumatized youth needed something that was going to help them to not succumb to what we know as post-traumatic stress disorder. They knew then what we know and what we sometimes forget, especially in education, that resilience is that psychological prerequisite for post-traumatic growth and positive mental health. Like, being a kid is harder than ever, and it was before COVID. We saw this with rising rates of mental health and addictions. We saw this with the opioid crisis that started in 2014, 2015. We saw kids who were maybe dabbling, who in a previous generation would have had a second, third, or fourth chance, die after their first relapse because the poison factor of these drugs is so extreme. All sorts of mental health issues coming, and new ones. Seems like on an annual basis, there's a new mental health trend that somehow is being able to infect society and our mindset. Growing up's always been hard. This is why traditional cultures have rites of passage, why they have mentorship, why the community is supreme, because as we're developing as our young selves, trying to figure out, who am I? What am I going to do with the rest of my life? It was typically society that had a process, an understanding of how do we take this kid and turn them into a functioning, contributing member of society. And the bigger the society, the more complicated that can become. Being a teacher is one of the most important jobs anyone can ever have. They're the ones on the front lines every day. And that teacher signed up for a job to help educate and support these young people. What we see so often, though, is that they're not equipped to support the myriad of mental health issues and behavioral issues that are prevalent in our society. What we need is to be able to equip those teachers with the right training, supports, and programs that helps them to engage that student, that helps that student to come alive to who they are, where they're going, and what they're doing within that classroom context. And so for the teacher, oftentimes it's that, how do I open these kids up, get them to engage so that we're able to support who they are, so they can moderate their own behavior or talk to somebody and feel open and able to say, I'm struggling, I want to change this, I'm feeling this way. What we see when we introduce resilience into the classroom is not just those kids who are disengaged getting engaged, not just the kids who are engaged really understanding who they are, how they can be people builders, better friends, and live for a purpose using their strengths. But what we often see is that these underlying issues start to become less of a taboo. We've had probably 50,000 students in the last 6 years take this one lesson. And it's about understanding that you're not alone in your fear. And to understand that, first we needed to talk about our fears. That the kid who used to sit in the back because he's worrying sick about his mom or his dad or what happened on the weekend or what might happen when he gets home, he now has a classroom of young people who are sharing some of these fears, some of these labels, some of these circumstances that are difficult for them, but now there's an open opportunity. I'm not alone. So now that you've felt the fear, how are you going to utilize your supports to be able to turn that fear into either an opportunity or at least into an understanding that I am somebody of worth, I have people and supports around me, therefore I can face this fear, and it doesn't need to eat me inside, and I don't need to be afraid of telling anybody that I have this struggle. You need resilience. You can't have positive mental well-being. You can't have long-term positive mental health. You will fall victim to and be identified by your labels if you don't have an internal set of resilience that says, I am and I have, therefore I can. I'm not limited by my disability. I'm not limited by my dysfunction. I'm not limited by the issues I had as a kid or within my family, because I know this to be true. These are circumstances, fears, and labels. And I've already used my strengths to go through these processes without even knowing them. Now that I know them, I'm more powerful and more able to be that person that I know I'm supposed to be.